Welcome to Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 315, JumpCloud. This is our live show where we discuss the ins and outs of running your computer repair business. Our show today is brought to you by Instant House Call, remote support that is easy for you and your customers to use. This is a must-have tool with features like on-demand for your break-fix customers and unattended for managed services. You do automatic repairs with the auto repair built-in software. It will save you time and money when you're supporting your customers. Check it out for a free trial at instanthousecall.com. Use the offer code PODNUTS. And also buy FreshBooks, the simple pain-free invoicing solution for freelancers and small business owners. For a 30-day free trial, just go to freshbooks.com/PodNuts. Enter PodNuts in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Let's introduce the co-host. Let me introduce the co-host. And we have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. John, how you doing?
Jeff, I unfortunately watched the Lego movie, which wasn't half bad yesterday, but everything is awesome, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Been there, done that. And also joining us, we have Ben Oren from JumpCloud. Ben, how you doing?
Pretty good. Happy St. Paddy's Day.
Happy St. Paddy's Day. Nice. Yeah, I forgot. 17th, right? Yeah. Yeah. Get your green beer? No. Okay. All right, so we're going to start off the show as we normally do, and we're going to share a tip or story that we could learn from. John, I'm going to kick it off to you. What do you got for us this week?
Just a couple quick little updates this week, Jeff. So, the adults are going to talk. You just drink your coffee there, and we'll be good to go. Quick little update that Snap, their overseer platform, nice little update here in March. Got two-factor finally, and a couple other security updates, and then a lot of under the hood stuff that they're working on, which is pretty exciting. Put that in the show notes in the chat if anybody wants to check that out. Let's see, next. Nice little reference guide I found. I had all sorts of links to this kind of stuff, but if you're a Dell guy like me and you work with the Optiplex line of computers, I don't know why I didn't find this before, and maybe I'm just waking up to how to use Google, but here's a great link to the Dell Optiplex Diagnostic Indicator webpage. So on all the Optiplex, you get the cool little numbers on the front of something when it's booting up, postcodes, as we used to call them, but there is a secret little web page, probably not so secret, that has what all those codes mean for all the Optiplex models in the notes, in the chats. The next is an article I found, which is basically a little bit of link baiting, I think, and something that we all absolutely know, but I thought the content of the article was pretty cool and something you could share with your clients. The article title is 60% of small businesses fold within 6 months of a cyber attack. Here's how to protect yourself. It's on Inc.com. I'll put a link in there, but the way the article is written and the information it provides would be a good way for you to maybe start a conversation with your client if you wanted to create some material or something like that. I thought it was, very non-technical information that you could share with your client. Two more quick ones. Everybody's on the VoIP bandwagon. We have a great partner over there. But there's a site called VoIPinfo.org. And if you're new to VoIP and you're not sure what a BLF is or what SIP is or any of that kind of stuff, it's just a plain Jane website, great search page where you could put in BLF, find out all about what that is. It's sponsored by 3CX. Even if you're using a host provider, you're probably using 3CX or Asterisk or something like that behind the scenes that you don't know about. But VoIP-info.org has a great bunch of information, all in plain Jane and explained very well. And last but not least is routersecurity.org, another .org site. Just has a ton of information on how to test your routers with known issues, firewalls with known issues, and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like whoever is maintaining that site keeps that up to date with a lot of good information. So those are my tips of the week.
John, that is awesome as usual, and you really bring the goods, man. I love those links. Definitely a lot of good information. And one thing we all need is a little more time to educate ourselves, and you make it very easy by giving us the information so we can go educate ourselves on a regular basis.
Got to earn my pay, Jeff. Got to earn my pay.
All right, Ben, do you have a tip or story for us this week?
John is a tough act to follow, man. He came slinging links. So I got two quick ones. One actually was not prepared, but one of the things that John shared kind of spurred my thought. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the net diligence report. I don't know if you guys have run across that. I'll throw 2 links in the chat. They do a report. I think they come from audits, so insurance audit claims from 2018 of companies that have been breached and the cost of a breach. So I'll throw that in there. They have a pretty interesting infographic and then a super dense report. So I'd probably start with the infographic, but it goes up the same vein of the cost of a small business. And I think it may have been potentially the source of part of the URL that's shared before. But anyways, it's something you can share with your clients as well to help them get an understanding of like, this is why it's important to lock down security. So let me throw those 2 links in there. And then the other tip or trick I had was a little bit less solid, but more some best practices that we use here at JumpCloud. So being kind of a software company, we talk a lot about iterating, right? So fail fast, learn fast, kind of experiment. I think it's just, especially as business owners or even helping some of your small businesses, think about like what's something I want to go test and try and make better, either through my operations or processes or my approach to selling and marketing to clients. And don't worry about making it perfect. Just measure what you're doing and try and figure out what worked well, what didn't, and iterate and take the next step. So like I said, John's a tough act to follow, but hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, man, Ben bringing the goods.
That's right. Good information. Yeah, I didn't know about that one resource, so that was good. And then obviously, hey, get out there and you got to do something. If you don't do something, nothing will ever happen. So that's great advice there. All right, so my tip is, and I had to change it up a little bit. So I'll read through our Facebook group, our secret Facebook group, and I'll read through other Facebook groups, and I'll listen to business owners and technicians talk. And mine is basically, don't feel stupid. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people out there that will look at a solution, and by the time they figure it out, they'll look at it as, I should have known that. Why didn't I remember that I had done that 6 months ago and had that same problem that I was able to fix then? I forgot about it. Well, in today's day and age, the digital euphoria that we have surrounding us all over is ridiculous because there's just too much of it. We've got all these different stimuli that are basically grabbing our attention. So the capacity in your brain to remember every little single thing you've ever done is just not going to be there. And that's okay. The important things will be there. The rest of the stuff, hey, you know what? You might have to look it up again, or you might have to get some advice from, I don't know, a good group of people that can help you out. And that's the benefit of being a part of a community and having a community that will surround you and help you in understanding, hey, this is what I did for this situation. And even if you don't get the solution a lot of times, you'll get led in the right direction and your brain will click into gear and go, oh yeah, I remember when. And you'll go do that. So don't ever, and I know people probably say this in tongue in cheek, oh, I feel so stupid. Not, you know what? Just take that out of your vocabulary. Don't say that ever again, because there's nothing stupid about you. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, in this community, I've met some of the smartest individuals that I've ever seen in this industry, quite honestly. And because there's a lot of smart people that come up with a lot of great things in an understanding of what they're doing, and they're able to help others, and others are able to help them. Nobody knows everything, and that's okay. So anyways, don't feel stupid. All right, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll get into our main topic, because I know some people in the chat room are asking, what is JumpCloud? We definitely want to get into that. But before that, we're going to talk about TechCon Unplugged. Yes, our very own convention, September 20th through the 22nd, 2019 in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Guess what? Be there or be square. I know I keep saying that, and some of you will get that. Some of you won't.
We got to come up with something better.
Yeah, that's probably that's even older than my time. I don't know. Anyways, all right. Here's what you're gonna get for $199. Now, again, I'm going to tell you, invest in your business, because you want to go to a place where you're going to learn and be able to take away information back home with you into your business. But this $199 is going to get you all the meals. Friday night, we're having a meetup. Saturday, you're going to get breakfast and lunch. and 2 snacks. Sunday, you're going to get breakfast and lunch and 2 snacks. And Saturday, included in the price of your ticket, we're going to Dave and Buster's to eat and hang out and have a great time. Again, keeping the community together. This is the place you want to be if you want to learn about your business, if you want to hang out with other like-minded individuals that are there to help you, and you're there to, spread your information too. So it's a win-win situation, and that's what we want. These are the type of people we want there. There's a lot of business owners out there that a lot of times will feel like they're all out there by themselves. There's nobody to help them, and we never want anybody to feel that way. So, you know what? Take a weekend away from your business, work on your business, work on some ideas so you have some information to bring back. But we're also going to have community invested vendors that are going to be with us, hanging out, talking about their products and services. We're going to be able to schmooze and get information from them, and they're going to be able to find out about our businesses. And again, it's this symbiotic relationship where people are working together, and it's a win-win. So we want vendors to be in business for themselves because, they got to get paid, they got to eat, they got to pay mortgages, all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, we want to make money in our businesses, and we want to have that time and availability to be able to do that. Well, a lot of times you've got to use vendors that are going to help you in your business instead of just being you by yourself. Again, you can't do everything. So we want to bring this community together and just hang out for the weekend. Go to techconunplugged.com right now. Pick up your ticket. The hotel rooms are $102 a night. Grab a couple. Grab 3. Come in. I'll probably be there Thursday night. So anyways, you guys want to come hang out, and are going to have a awesome time, and it's in John Dubinsky's backyard. Right, John?
Yeah, darn near. Hey, that's a good point, Jeff. If guys are going to come in early or gals, let us know. Maybe we should do something on the CRP group or something to say, hey, here's people that are here or something. So we'll figure that out, guys. Get back to you.
We definitely will. We definitely got plenty of time. So, and everything is moving together well. As the list of vendors is growing, so it's exciting. All right, so now we're going to talk about JumpCloud, and basically their tagline is directory as a service. Now, there may be a lot of people that know what a directory is, going back to on-prem Active Directory, and there may be some people out there that maybe don't. But before we get into that, what I want to do is I want to have Ben, give us a background story of basically how you got started in tech and how you got to this point where all of a sudden you're with JumpCloud.
Yeah, so me personally,
Yes.
Cool. So I'm a fellow Midwesterner, like the two of you guys. I grew up in Southern Indiana. Almost went to IU and was a Hoosier, but ended up going to University of Dayton, and stumbled my way out here to Colorado. We're Boulder-based company, so I ended up with an internship in Denver, friend of a friend, and went back to school and was like, well, I know what I'm doing after I graduate. I don't know what job I'm going to have, but I know where I'm going to live. So for those of you that haven't been out here in Colorado, it's like 300 days of sun a year and mountains, and doesn't matter what time of year, there's something fun to do. So anyways, found my way out here and ended up with a tech startup called Trada that no longer exists. And then from there, we've been in kind of the Boulder hotbed of SaaS and technology. So went to another company called Kapos, was there for about 5 years, and I've been with JumpCloud about 2.5. So a little over, not quite half as long as the company's been around. We're about 5-6 years old. So running the partner program over here at JumpCloud, which is pretty exciting, and figuring all that stuff out. But it's been a fun ride so far. I don't have a whole lot to complain about living and working in Boulder, Colorado, and playing in the mountains on the weekends.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Yeah, great background story. So go ahead and explain to us from your viewpoint basically what JumpCloud is and what it can do for someone's business.
Yes, for sure. So, I mean, I think the tagline is a good dovetail into it. So directory as a service, right? I think if we've looked at just about everything in the tech stack, right, it's gone through an evolution. Like email is probably one of the ones at the top of the mind, right? Of, okay, everything used to be on an Exchange server, and then Gmail popped up and Office 365, and you just kind of go across the stack, and most things have a parallel in the cloud. But with the directory being sort of the heart of the IT stack, that's kind of one of the last shoes to drop, right? Because that's a big beast to pull out. And so that's our big vision. And that's what we've built, is a fully cloud-based directory that becomes kind of the core of any IT infrastructure around managing user identity. So there's a lot of different applications for that, and we can kind of talk about some of those depending on, are you a small business? Are you a managed service provider? Are you working with people in residential potentially? We're more B2B focused, but we do see people kind of play in that space. But that's kind of the big picture that we've got, is be the true cloud-based alternative to Active Directory.
Awesome. So what are some of the, so for some of those, and there's some young ones out here, probably your age. And so a lot of those people might not actually know what Active Directory did back in the day, or what it can do, and kind of what you've done as far as taking a software service and taking it to the cloud so that we can use that instead of a normal Active Directory where we'd have an on-prem server and all that kind of stuff. Because you'll hear, I'm sure you guys hear it in the industry all the time, that there's a lot of people out there that they're having less and less on-prem servers. People are just, there's not as big of a need for them as there used to be. But in order to take care of the clients from their end, it's getting a little harder, because if you don't have some sort of Active Directory type service, then you have to do everything manually and touch each machine manually, versus being able to go in and make some changes virtually in the cloud, so that the same types of things are done.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, Active Directory has been a standard for almost 2 decades, right? And the core and there's just kind of some genesis behind that. Our chief product officer, I think, has a pretty good video on YouTube. I'll see if I can pull it and share it with you guys afterwards. But he kind of just talks about the evolution of directory services, and it does a good job of giving kind of a history lesson on that, right? But if you think about what the traditional Office used to look like, it was really all about what's inside the brick and mortar, right? And managing that network. And that was a world where we were all sitting on our big boxy desktops in our cubicles, and everything was literally hardwired together. And then, we kind of advanced a little bit more, and people maybe started to use the internet, and you start thinking about things like VPNs to get into the kind of port back into that brick and mortar. So there's all these kind of pieces in that evolution. And what's happened is AD hasn't really changed a whole lot. But there's stuff that's been kind of tacked on top of it, right? And now kind of the needs of a business, small business or enterprise or in between, have continued to evolve as all these different things have started to move to the cloud. We've seen an explosion of different line of business applications, even for small businesses, right? There's kind of a whole different, basically each industry has their own best in class, whether it's their billing system or point of sale system or, what have you. And this explosion of cloud applications and all these other resources has really sort of shifted the conversation around security from, well, how do we keep our local network secure, to, do we really trust our end users with all of these identities? Because now that's kind of the main vector of attack, right? Phishing, spear phishing in some cases, but really going after the end user's identities. And if you don't have a way to get those identities under control, that's a pretty significant liability, especially for a small to medium business. So that kind of frames up the problem space that JumpCloud's addressing. And so what we've done to do this is, or secure that, is we become kind of the authority for the user identity. And then we leverage a variety of different protocols to control both the system, so desktop, laptop, We don't do mobile device yet, but that could be a MacBook or a Linux system or a PC across a bunch of different flavors, and give you remote control to push policies, manage users' authentication there, and then kind of around the rest of the wheel, if you will, of what users need to get their job done. So network authentication, maybe traditional resources like LDAP on-premise, file shares, those sorts of things, and then all the cloud applications. So we have deep connections with Office 365 and Google, and then we also provide single sign-on to about 150 SAML-based cloud applications, and then also have a generic SAML connector. So it's really kind of the whole vision is to give the end users and give the administrators a single point of control to help users securely get their job done across all the resources they need.
Very good. John?
So let's break that down just a little bit in simplicity in case guys that are listening have never used Active Directory before and what we're talking about. So if we deal with compliance and all that kind of stuff, let's just start with what a policy is. So a policy might be, and there are literally probably thousands, is not underestimating what you can set up with group policy with Active Directory. And what JumpCloud is they've taken maybe the big ones, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, on some of these, but I believe from within JumpCloud, you can set policies that say, don't log on with a Microsoft account. Don't give that ability to have happen, or disable Cortana, or maybe I'm trying to think of the other ones that I saw in there. I think there's a power settings option in there maybe, or there's a BitLocker function in there. So you can set a policy that says, yes, this must occur. So the user can't change that. So it's a policy, it's a firm, you've set a static rule on that PC. All right, unlike an unmanaged PC that doesn't have Active Directory or group policy on it, you may set up a computer for a user, deploy it to their work group since you're not on a domain, and everything is peachy, but the user goes in and changes a setting and now has broken your policies and you may not know about it. So it alleviates that manual process of saying, even if it's a small business that only has 10 computers, well, to maintain that policy, you may have to manually go through those 10 computers once a month to make sure users haven't changed a setting, or push out some sort of PowerShell script on some sort of basis to make sure that those settings are changed back or are at the level that you say they are. So, you know, what you're getting with JumpCloud, and full disclosure, I haven't implemented JumpCloud yet. It is on my list. I'm definitely getting there once I get through my to-do list, because I've lost 80% of my Active Directory and group policy because my servers are just disappearing over the last 5 years. So I think I'm down to like 30 servers where I used to have over 100 5 years ago. So, you know, that's just the way that it's going. And I think JumpCloud's a great way to do it. And we'll get back to that. But okay, so we talked about policies. That's one great way. But also as an add-on, tack on to that, and Ben mentioned this, but if I simplify it a little bit, you know, we talk about directory as a service / single sign-on is what I might say. And Ben, correct me if I'm wrong in this again, but so you have a user that logs into a particular PC and you control or manage that user through JumpCloud while you're managing their login for everything, all of those services. So maybe you're a G Suite shop. So you're managing that login to G Suite, you're managing the login to the computer, and there might be let's say you're using NetSuite or Salesforce or something like that at your customer too. All the user needs to do is log in with that single sign-on, their username and password, and now they're logged into everything else. And you control that. And where the power of that is really, in my opinion, is if a user leaves. One, you're maintaining their identity, you have control of their identity. You're making sure that they're not using monkey123 and password1 for those passwords because you're controlling that. But if a user leaves, you can just simply go into JumpCloud and say, click. Now that user has no access to any of that. So they've been removed from that, all of those services with one click. So from a compliance standpoint, from a security standpoint, you're solving a lot of work very easily with JumpCloud in a simplistic fashion, especially if you don't have any experience with Active Directory or group policy in the past. It's much more point and click based. Now, there are other solutions, full disclosure. Microsoft is getting much better with their group policy and Active Directory in the cloud. But again, you're going to have that Active Directory knowledge, and you're going to have to connect your endpoints to that Active Directory, that domain in the cloud. So you're going to have to get some experience with that, and maybe that's a complexity you don't want. So, I think I've simplified that and removed some confusion, I hope, or tried to, from the aspect that I'm working about, because now I'm losing my domain networks, as I mentioned, because my servers are going away. So now I have these work group networks where I need to enforce policies and with like that single sign-on to have the control and management for the business. Does it make sense, Jeff, or did I confuse things more?
No, I understood you completely. Now I've been in Active Directory years and years ago, so I have an understanding of it. But yes, Ben, so the group policies and the power and control that you have using something like JumpCloud, plus going across all the different services. You said you do Macs, Linux. Who the hell uses Linux? I mean, did I say that out loud?
Hey, Ben, here's a great question that somebody's throwing into the chat is, what about the home version of Windows? Does group policy have any enforcement into that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we do have a few policies that will support home. There's a list, and I can throw this actually. Let me go grab our knowledge base docs. There's a couple resources here that talk about supported OS, and then there's a whole list of policies, and those policies list will highlight. Let me do the policies first because that's popping up faster for me.
And then what I've noticed too is you're finding that it seems like with every update you guys do to the platform, you might add 1 or 2 more policies or something like that. You seem to add, it seems to be just a small churn on those policies every update.
Yeah, definitely. So policies is, we have our product team's kind of broken out across different feature sets, and we have a whole team that's focused just on policies. And our approach is to be kind of like Switzerland, if you think about it, right? So that's why we're supporting Mac and Linux. We're going to be kind of neutral here. So all that to say, from a policies perspective, we're looking to try and keep at least Mac and Windows in parity as much as we can. But the question about supporting home version brings up a good question in general. And I just threw our full policies list into the chat there. And let me see if I can find our agent supported versions. But it brings up a good point, especially as you mentioned, John, Azure AD and some of what Microsoft's starting to do. Microsoft being Microsoft, right? They're going to kind of develop for the current most version and forward. So that's another challenge, is that a lot of folks that are starting to play around with Azure AD and some of their Intune product that helps you manage policies. My understanding of that is that you have to be on a certain level of Windows 10 or beyond for it to really function the way you need it to from a policies perspective, where we can support home and education and some other kind of maybe non-supported OS across Azure AD.
Very nice, very nice.
Which I think, John, as far as into businesses nowadays, obviously the one thing we try to always do is push people to pro, because really in this day and age with Windows 10, it's like, why not? But
well, there's a couple obvious reasons why you should have pro. I mean, one, if you have a customer that doesn't want to do it for the price of it, the upgrade, I forget what it is to upgrade from home to pro. It's not very much. It should happen too, because if no other reason, you got to have the encryption with BitLocker. Why not? You should be using it whether you're in compliance or not. It's free. It's included in Pro. Even if you don't have a TPM, you can use a little micro USB stick, stick it in the back, and have a quasi TPM type device managing your BitLocker for you, so you can still have auto login. There's no reason not to be doing that. So really, you have to think about covering yourself as well as your customer too. So if you have a customer that's giving you a lot of pushback and wants to buy Windows Home machines, that might be a warning for you to, maybe reevaluate that. I do understand that there's outliers and reasons for that. Maybe it's a home PC they have at their house or something like that. But if they're, accessing business critical data, there's still a conversation to be had there. The other thing is we talk about that, and we've been bringing a lot of vendors and all that. There's a big difference between what I would consider JumpCloud and Microsoft's Active Directory and Azure and all that. In features, obviously the Azure thing doesn't do everything that JumpCloud does, and obviously JumpCloud doesn't have every policy that Microsoft does ever put an Active Directory, and I don't think they want to, because we don't want to have that level of complexity. But keep in mind, and this kind of I'm digressing into something else, just into overall marketing of all the products that we use. Don't read the marketing sheet and think that it's going to fix everything that you need immediately. The nice thing about JumpCloud, and I've kind of been in the back seat watching them for quite a while, they've gone continuously growing through this. The nice thing about that is they make it very easy for you to kick the tires. You can sign up and get 10 computers. So even if you have a small office, you could run an entire small office with 10 endpoints for free. And it's the exact same product that you would pay for. So, and then let's say you have 11 endpoints there, and I'm sure Ben will comment on this too, but you only pay for the next one. You get 10 free, and then you're jumping on. So you pay for that next one. So it's a great way to have your micro or very micro small offices get on and have a very high level of security and some sort of policies in that business. It's an easy way to get involved with easy documentation on a business, because you can set policies that way. So, to me, I've kind of been waiting around to see if somebody can do it better. And I don't really know why that is. I've looked at, there's another product called Policy Pack that you could look at, but again, it's much more complicated. And it's not connected or as cloud-based as JumpCloud is. At this point, I'm by the time we get to TechCon in September, I'm sure I'll have some implemented and all that. And, I've done some testing in my old office. I just think it's the way to go. But getting back to my point, it's the 10 users for free. Not only can you utilize that, but you can throw it on your own office computers and see what's going to happen. It's just very easy to, flesh out what's going to happen.
That's a great point, John. A lot of times, that's what a lot of people are concerned about, using a product or service they've never heard of or never have used themselves. And this is a great way to do it. So Ben, what types of things are you seeing out there where people are using JumpCloud, and how is it saving their bacon in this industry, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that John brought up in kind of his first point was the onboarding and offboarding and kind of the easy use there. So it is really about, okay, what happens when somebody has to get fired or let go, right? And maybe not in a so graceful kind of way. We've heard some horror stories of people still having access to core business resources like Salesforce or Slack or company data, or even something that maybe feels as innocent as Wi-Fi. But if you get somebody that knows how to do some malicious stuff, and they can go sit in the coffee shop across the street and still have the shared SSID and password, they can go, spoof that access point and get into the CEO or anybody else's email. So, or just kind of their internet stream. So those are a lot of the things, are just making sure that the wrong people don't have access to stuff anymore. For our partners, we also offer, so kind of to piggyback off John's most recent point, we offer the 10 users free forever, and that's actually across every account. So you can spin that up for yourself internally, and then you can go spin up a 9-person account for free. And as a partner, if you wanted to come and investigate our program, we offer you a multi-tenant portal as well. And so all of that stuff, nothing within the partner program costs anything. So all that to say, there's a lot of efficiency that our partners gain, because especially if you're in a world today where you have to go spend time on premise setting up Active Directory, or maybe they don't have AD in place, but you have to go physically get on their systems. Maybe you don't have an RMM on those devices to control it remotely. Something like JumpCloud can give you the ability to not have to jump in the car as much, right? And save time back in your business, and make your team just overall more efficient. So we have seen some partners that have been working with us for a while have been able to go add more customers without having to worry as much about capacity, because they're able to be a little bit more efficient with the team that they already have, roping something that's cloud-based, scalable, multi-tenant into their offering without having to go spend a bunch of time on site and make themselves more efficient as well.
That's excellent. So, John, So obviously, what are you looking for when it comes to a service like JumpCloud, and what things are you looking for to benefit you in your particular business with all of your on-prem servers going away, and you've got to be able to basically get in there and take care of your customers on a regular basis. And obviously, the one thing we have not enough of is time.
Well, I think the main thing that has really fallen down to all of us as techs lately is that our job is really to be able to see what is happening, control what is happening, and then protect what is happening on the networks and infrastructure that we manage. So, and I also think that we're looking for tools that make that simple for us and make it simple for our clients, so that whatever we implement for us makes our job easier, which again, we've talked about before, in my belief that the easier our jobs are, the better. I think that equates to better value for our clients. The other thing is that if we can bring a tool in to a client that provides that type of stuff of value, meaning to see, control, and protect, but also provides other value, meaning that it makes it easier for the user to log into several items at once. It makes it easier for us to control their password or help them reset a password, or even help them self-manage the password, which you can do from JumpCloud, very easy through a website. It's all about the little things of mastering a tool that is much simpler to use than group policy and Active Directory, especially if you've never been exposed to that in the past. And then allowing, again, that control. I kind of don't like the word control. Maybe manage would be a better word, because it's the customer's network. I'm just trying to help them stay out of trouble and keep myself out of trouble by managing that for them. Let's just be honest. And then I want to protect them against the unknown and against themselves. So the more I look at JumpCloud, the more I evaluate the way I want to go. It's just those kinds of tools. I want a tool that kind of is simple to implement, which JumpCloud is much easier than doing AD or domain. And it moves me towards the goals of meeting some of my compliance needs as well, so through those policies. So it's that overall, that big picture that and again, I want to be able to see what's happening on the network, and we all talk about the routers that we use, the tools that we use, the AV that we use, the RMM that we use. Those all should be aspects of the tools we choose to be able to see what's happening and understand what's happening. And then that management. And I think really that's where JumpCloud kind of jumps right into the middle of that and says, okay, we're going to control the passwords and the sign-on and what's happening on your user PC with these, or endpoints, with these policies. Right now, Windows and Mac. That'd be a great question for Ben. In the future, maybe we'll see some mobile aspects to that, or some sort of light MDM in JumpCloud. I don't know. And then which leads to that protection on the end, which is the CYA aspect is, the only way to really say it. You want to provide a good value for your customer because you want to cover your butt that you're doing the right thing. Nothing's 100%, but we layer all that stuff together. And then, a protected customer is a happy customer. And if we can try to stay out of the way of their business functions as much as possible with a tool that enhances that, that's the way to go.
Very well said. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get back into this main topic. Our show today is brought to you by FreshBooks. You remember when you started your small business? It was no small feat. It took a lot of late nights, early mornings, and the occasional all-nighter. Bottom line, you've been insanely busy ever since. So why not make things a little easier? Well, our friends at FreshBooks have the solution. FreshBooks invoicing and accounting software is designed specifically for small businesses. It's simple, intuitive, and keeps you way more organized than a dusty shoebox filled with crumpled receipts. Who remembers those days? None of you. Create and send professional-looking invoices in 30 seconds, and then get them paid 2 times faster with automated online payments. Who likes that? File expenses even quicker and keep them perfectly organized for tax time. Oh, if that time is near. Yeah, got to get that stuff done. And the best part, FreshBooks grows alongside your business, so you'll always have the tools you need when you need them without ever having to learn the ins and outs of accounting. I would rather stick 2 forks in my eye than learn accounting in any form. Join the 24 million people who've used FreshBooks. Try it free for 30 days. No catch and no credit card required. Go to freshbooks.com/podnuts and enter podnuts in the How Did You Hear About Us section to get started. All right, going back into talking with Ben Oren from JumpCloud. So Ben, what are some of the things that we have not touched on that you want to bring about JumpCloud at this point?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think we've spent a good amount of time on kind of the policies and the system and getting you some more management, control, and security. I think really kind of digging into maybe some of the two other pieces that we support that are not as commonly used, or commonly kind of the first place people start would be our LDAP and our Radius. So for those familiar with, we'll start with Radius. This is a pretty old protocol that helps you manage users' authentication to the wireless network. And more sophisticated environments you also can leverage. There's some accounting that you can do within Radius, not the one that you wanted to stick a fork in your eye about. And then also authorization. But JumpCloud solely focuses on really helping manage users' authentication to the networks. And so it's really nice, especially if you work with kind of smaller to medium businesses that maybe have a couple offices, or maybe they want to manage a guest Wi-Fi network, or kind of just break things up within the network. JumpCloud has groups, user groups and system groups. So similar to Active Directory, but you're able to say, okay, this group of users should only have access to this network, right? And for the end users, this is something we haven't highlighted probably as much, as JumpCloud makes life really easy for the end user as well, especially if they're not all that technical. They're hitting you up with, wait, what's my password for my email again? What's my password for my PC? What's the Wi-Fi password? I erased it off the whiteboard. It's now the answer is it's the same password, right? It's the same username. You just logged into your system. You just logged into your Gmail or Office 365. Same thing on the Wi-Fi. And then, like we were talking about before, it makes it really easy to then say, sorry, John, you're fired. We're going to pull you off the network and everything else just by pulling you out of that group, right? So you say, okay, they don't have access to that group. We've removed them access from that system, and we're sure that they don't have access to those things anymore. So that's, I would say Radius is probably the first one. I don't know if we want to dig in there further. And then the other piece I'd talk about a little bit is our LDAP.
Yeah, when you first said Radius, I was like half a diameter. Pretty much.
Yeah,
okay. I mean, now Radius... you are a nerd. You are a nerd for even bringing. Okay.
Sorry. Anyways, my stupid math classes.
The D in Radius stands for dial-up, right? So that's how old the protocol is. Yeah,
it is old. Okay. All right. And so, what is LDAP and what does it stand for? Because if you've never watched the show before, I apologize, but I hate acronyms. And I usually poo-poo the whole, anyways, you'll hear it if you hear any of the other shows, but
you don't like TLAs.
It all started really with MSPs, and I'm a managed service provider.
Yeah, I'm
like what?
MSSPs, okay. CSPs.
Yeah. Now it's MSSSSSSSP. Stop it! Just stop it! It's so stupid. But anyways,
that's not how you spell Mississippi. Need a couple vowels. Yeah. So LDAP is, I believe, and keep me honest here, lightweight directory access protocol. And so that means it's basically just a language for kind of directories to communicate through or with one another. And really just think about the directory being, let's get the list of users and what should they be able to have access to. So similar to Radius for networks, it's just a language for the directories of the servers to communicate back and forth. And so if you think about the whole, a Windows server can perform a lot of different roles. Right. And so there's different things. You can basically flip the switches in the server and say, you're going to be an Active Directory server, or you're going to be a file server, or you're going to be a Radius server. And so JumpCloud's not replacing all of those roles. And so to supplement that, what we've done is said, let's build to these other industry standard protocols like Radius or like LDAP that give our cloud-based directory the ability to communicate with maybe more traditional on-premise resources. So in some scenarios, we have customers that have, or partners that have customers that are like creative agencies or architects, or just don't want to make that jump yet to getting all of their files up in the cloud. And so they still have servers on premise to manage files. And so you leverage our LDAP to determine which group of users in JumpCloud should have access to those files, and pass that information through LDAP. And then on the server side, you can say, okay, this group of JumpCloud users can have access to our financial information. And these guys can go mess with our logos and our pretty pictures or whatever else we're storing in the file share. So that's another piece that, while we are very cloud oriented, we recognize that not every environment has shifted 100% to the cloud yet, and that's fine. And so we're leveraging protocols like Radius and LDAP to support those hybrid type environments.
Well, let's be honest, in this business, and I've said this for a very, very long time, most businesses, whether they want to admit it or not, are in some sort of a hybrid mode. In other words, nobody is 100% one thing. So you've got to make, and we hear it all the time from people that they'll say, man, I've got to go do this and I've got to go do that. And it's just, it's never as easy as you would think it is. So obviously, it sounds to me like your guys' software, basically from JumpCloud, it just hooks into a lot of different things that an end user in a business scenario, or even a personal scenario, that will use that information. And if they can just log in and get access to this, and you've got control of not only the internal environment, kind of an external environment too. And I do have one question, because I know John had asked this a little bit earlier. Um, is there plans, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there plans for any type of mobile management?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if you think about our product right now, it's really wide, right? We do a lot of different things, and we're starting to go deeper and deeper. You guys have mentioned that, like, I think AD has 2,000 plus policies, right? And so we're chipping away at those from a compliance perspective. But if you start to think about the complexity of a mobile device management system and the different flavors of those operating systems and how quickly those versions shift, that turns into a really unwieldy product to try and develop towards. So it's a long way of saying that's not on the roadmap at the moment. It's definitely been discussed. The way that we actually can answer that question today goes back to what we were just talking about with LDAP. So a lot of common industry MDMs like AirWatch or Meraki does some MDM. They can actually consume identities through LDAP. And so you could say, all right, here's the group of users. MDM, you go make some policy adjustments or management based on those users that JumpCloud has the authority over, and in effect kind of have that network all still controlled, with JumpCloud really being the heart of identity and authentication, even if we're not the ones who are setting the, I don't know what some like mobile device policies might be, like screensaver timeout, but the lock timeout or fingerprint or whatever those things might be.
Yeah, requiring a PIN or something like that. And just to be clear, there are over 5,000 individual group GPO settings. So if you put that in, if you had, let's say you had 100 GPOs, that would mean that you have the opportunity to set over 5 million GPO settings, on all those things. So, if you extrapolate that out, I mean, that's how finite you can get. So, and the guys that know that, and I am not claiming that I'm one of those guys, I know Active Directory, I've used group policy in the past and all that, but, I don't know the changes in 2016 or 2019 because frankly, I haven't deployed that. So, that's where I'm thinking I'm going to fall back on something like JumpCloud to simplify my life in that area.
And if you think about the end customers that need or use those 5,000 GPOs, it's probably not your typical SMB, even 100-person company, 200-person company. Like, they've got their core requirements that they need. And maybe they're HIPAA compliant or PCI, or depending on the industry they're in, even those folks only have a certain list of policies that they need to check the box off of. So that's really JumpCloud's priority. Is we've been saying, okay, let's go look at these core compliance requirements and build to those first. And then 4,599 policy in AD, like we'll get to that down the road. But we're going to knock down the ones that are really core to our customers' business.
Well, I'm with you, Ben, because one of the things that we talk about too is a lot of times if you become more complex in your product or service, whatever that might be, a lot of times you are all of a sudden not good at certain things. So I applaud you guys for sticking to your core values and going, "Hey, we're going to deal with the stuff that actually what I would call real people actually use on a day-to-day basis." Because I'm going to say this, even in an enterprise side, and I work for a large company and I know the internal IT people, and it's not very pretty. They probably don't know those policies either, to be honest with you. There's a handful that they probably have to use in order to keep corporate secrets, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is it doesn't really matter. So Microsoft has always been one of those companies that says, let me give you 500 ways to do one thing, which some of us geeks like myself will go, cool, I could do something 500 ways. Other people will go, I just want the simplest way to do it. Just help me out here and keep it simple, stupid, please. So I understand from both sides of the fence. But as far as JumpCloud goes, what are some of the things that you guys are looking at down the road that maybe you can talk about a little bit, as far as because as John's been saying, it sounds like you guys are iterating every time you have an update. You're adding a couple things, which I think is cool. You're not adding 500 things. You're adding a couple things, which again, you're keeping it simple, and so that people can start to use that stuff. Because a lot of times, if you give somebody this many things a lot, I'm holding my hands far apart, that that will basically, they won't look at any of it. But if you could give them a short, tiny little list that they can look at and understand, they're going to be able to use that a lot better, and it's going to serve them well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we kind of are taking this philosophy called product-led growth. And this stems from folks like Slack and a few others in the space that are really looking at, what's the incremental value that we can bring to an added unit of use. So in our world, it's a user, right? So we want to make sure that as you bring more people in, your business or your customer's business is getting more and more value out of that. So that kind of, I just lay that foundation because that kind of underlies our whole philosophy of why do we offer 10 users free forever? How do we want to continue to develop and grow the product? We're not a typical software company that's like, well, you got to go through a qualification process before you can even see the product, and you got to talk to a salesperson. So all that to say, our product team is really looking at ways to make our end customers' lives a lot easier and help them streamline and automate while staying really secure. So the policy list is going to continue to grow. We've mentioned BitLocker is now out as a policy that you can turn on and then manage the encryption keys in escrow. So meaning JumpCloud allows you as an admin to kind of hold those keys in a very safe, secure place that if JumpCloud got breached, they still wouldn't be breached because they're kind of in an escrow no man's land. We're doing the same thing for FileVault, which is Mac's version of that. So some of those deeper, more security-oriented policies, we do provide MFA. That's something I haven't brought up yet, but we provide multi-factor authentication through TOTP. I don't know exactly what those stand for. I'd tell you that acronym, but they're I could probably guess at it, but it's basically tokens, right? So you've got these tokens that you're capturing similar to an encryption key, and that can be presented today on Mac and Linux endpoints. So that should be coming here before too long on Windows endpoints. That's going to be in development for Radius. So having another factor if you really need to lock down that Wi-Fi network in addition to JumpCloud's passwords. And then on the partner side, so we've been working in the partner space for just about a year, but I would say we're really starting to kind of come into our own. We've released the multi-tenant portal. That was in about the past quarter. It's really been fully released out to all of our partners. So things down that alley of helping manage more administrators. And then finally, we do have an open API. That's a little bit more into like the really tech weeds. Most people aren't going to go put together a bunch of Bash and Python scripts to manage their small to medium business clients. But on top of that, we've built a PowerShell module. So PowerShell has actually become recently open source as well. And so we built a module that sits on top of our API. So you don't have to go become a scripting wizard. If you know PowerShell, you can actually go just download the PowerShell app, install the JumpCloud module, and then that allows you to interface with our API without actually having to go into the UI. So that helps you do things like add new users or bulk import users for a new customer. So all that to say, there's more we're looking to do in terms of helping you automate, especially as a partner. How great would that be to be able to kind of set something up and kind of forget it, right? And then get notified of, hey, this user just locked themselves out, or this user is logging in from a weird IP address. Like, you want to double check that? Like different things like that to automate and notify, both on our partner side as well as on the direct side. So that's kind of, I'm painting broad brushes here, but those are some of the directions we're going.
Ben, I have a question, if I may, and I'm not sure you can answer this because I'm putting you kind of on the spot with it. A lot of the tools I've looked at that do management of the BitLocker keys, if I already have them set up on BitLocker and I implement, it will report that the endpoint is encrypted, but it won't provide me with the key. Do you know if JumpCloud will do that? If it's already previously been encrypted prior to JumpCloud's installation, will it pull the key?
Great question.
And I don't expect you to say yes or no today. I just wondered if you knew.
I think I don't know off the top of my head. What I'll do is I will throw the policy. There's a specific knowledge base doc within our policy settings. That's a good question, though. It's like I said, it's been recently released to GA. So I haven't actually gotten that question yet. So it's one that I'll go find the answer to.
All right. I was just wondering if technically maybe there's a way not to do it. If it's, if it's not whatever is pushing the request to be encrypted, maybe it's obviously the key is probably encrypted somewhere. So maybe you can't get to it.
Yeah,
so
I think
that's okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if, and this is just total speculation. I mean, I'm technical enough to be dangerous, as you guys have seen, but I'm more on the sales and support side than actually being technical.
We like honesty. That's all good.
Yeah, I think there may be a process of like resetting the encryption. I know broadly on the policy side, sometimes partners will have you'll have an RMM and JumpCloud. And so thinking about who is the authority over policies is kind of important. So I would say that's probably the same with BitLocker, right? Let's think about, is JumpCloud the authority over the policies that are set on this system, or are you flipping switches on the system side as well? And our suggestion would be kind of to do one or the other, rather than have wait, did I set that policy on the work group side, or did I flip that in JumpCloud? So that's, again, me just kind of more guessing at how it might work. But I threw the knowledge base doc in there, and we can dig that up.
Sweet. Thank you.
For sure.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So there's a lot of good things. And I'll tell you what, the number one thing to me that I see is that you guys do offer the 10-person basically startup, where you can basically grab the product, you can kick the tires, set it up in your own internal environment, figure out what it's going to do, and then figure out how it's going to help you with managing your customers. And John, I disagree with you a little bit. You are in control of your customers' network, whether they like it or not. And most of the time, let's be honest, they don't like it, but that's okay. You're still in control.
Well, and I appreciate that, Jeff, and and all that kind of stuff. But it's something to go back to. Is the nice thing about JumpCloud is you can implement JumpCloud, but not implement everything we've talked about either. You don't have to go all in out of the box. Meaning you can get the JumpCloud client on the PC and just literally just have the JumpCloud client on there and maybe just have it monitoring the login password on that PC, and then kind of step through the implementations you want to do. So, if it's that scary first time you're doing it, or if it's just the first time you're rolling it out to a new client, you can start slow. Say, hey, I'm just going to control the login to the PC, manage that password, and then we're going to move on to things like Radius, LDAP, single sign-on, policies, and all that kind of stuff. Or maybe you just want to use JumpCloud for policies. Keep in mind, in the show notes that I have a bunch of links. I have their YouTube page. I have a great YouTube video that I'll put a link in there that says "Set up and secure the modern office in 30 minutes." I kind of laugh because it's an hour-long YouTube video about a 30-minute subject, but I'll put that link in there, which really explains a lot of what we talked about today in some of the higher-end features. I'll put the link in there on pricing. Keep in mind that there is a couple different things that you need to look at in their pricing structure. Those 10 free include the full gamut. But there's free, there's something they call One Protocol, and there's something that they call Pro, which includes all the features. So depending on what you need, if you just need LDAP, Radius, SAML, all that kind of stuff, and I know there's a lot of acronyms there, Jeff, so hang on, grab on with both hands and just hold on. Thank you. But depending on what you need, compare those features. And the great thing about JumpCloud is a lot of the vendors that we like, they're very transparent about what's included in each package. The other good thing is I've never had to engage JumpCloud support, because if you go into their partner section or their support section, they seem to have an FAQ about freaking everything. So, that really makes it great. And they have a ton of stuff on their YouTube page, which explains all their features. And I have a link to that too. I've also included a link to the partner page in the notes as well as links to Radius, LDAP, group policies, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not familiar with that, you can kind of see what JumpCloud is doing just from a knowledge-based type aspect.
So John, you mean to tell me they're not just selling a product, they're telling you everything that you need to know about that product too?
It appears that way, Jeff. I don't want to jump to conclusions. It's a little unusual for a lot of vendors, but yes, they do seem to provide a lot of information about their product, which is easy to get to.
That's awesome. Now, what prompted you guys, this is just a side question, what prompted you guys to create such a in-depth knowledge base to help your customer base? Obviously, there's got to be somebody in your group that basically had to go through some things that said, you know what, I'm never going through this again. I'm going to fix this problem.
I can answer that. I don't even work for JumpCloud, and I know exactly why. But and I'm gonna step out of the way, and I'm gonna quit talking here in a minute. But I'm gonna also put a link to the resource page, and then I'm gonna let Ben talk. But the cool thing is on their resource page is they have a ton of things that aren't about JumpCloud, which like they have a guide to security for small businesses, which is something that I've referred back to. There's just a best practices article. And obviously, they're probably doing that for a lot of stuff, but they really tie it back to how JumpCloud can help versus just general, like multi-factor authentication, disk encryption, blah, 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 which has nothing to do with JumpCloud. So, they have a lot of good stuff on their resource page, and I'll put a link to that too. And now I'll be quiet, which is unusual.
Yeah, no, it kind of comes back to the product-led growth mentality that I mentioned. Like our leadership envisions a world one day where there's no salespeople, right? No salespeople, no support, and not necessarily in a pejorative necessarily, right, or in a bad way. It's more of, let's make something that's just stupid easy, even if it is more complicated, like a core part of your IT structure. And so we actually have a whole what we call our growth engineering team, which isn't just engineers or developers. It's a team internally that's thinking about how can we make this whole process and whole experience of interacting with JumpCloud and getting your head around the product and how it fits and how to implement it. We've got a whole team that's iterating and focusing on how do we break down those pieces of the puzzle and make them a lot easier. And And I think our knowledge base is great, and we have so much stuff in there that it's almost too much stuff, right? Like I go in there sometimes and I'm like, I know what I'm looking for, but I got to search the exact right keyword to kind of navigate through this thing. So we're actually going to be iterating and changing the knowledge base up a little bit and kind of bringing it up a notch. But that's, to answer your question, that's kind of why, is we want to make it just really easy and straightforward for people to get in there and understand what we do technically. And then John, to your point, how can we help you in the space in general? Like, what's the why behind why would you need a directory service, or why should you use a cloud directory? And that's some of the stuff that we're looking to improve upon this year with our partner space, as well as how do we help you grow your business? How do we help you maybe get more aligned to your customers and their business needs, right? So they're not maybe always seeing you as the person they have to call when something breaks, but, oh, this guy's my partner with technology and he's going to help me grow my business with technology, so that at the end of the month or the end of the year, and the quarter, or whatever the billing cycle, they're not looking at you on the line item and going, oh, he charged me this much, but he only came on site twice. That doesn't add up, right? If we can help you as partners change that conversation to align to the business owner who's maybe not super technical, but sees you as an ally with technology to be successful with their business, those are the types of areas we're looking to get a lot more engaged in, and creating content and resources and material. So a little bit of tangent, not the question you asked exactly, but anyways, thought it'd be worth throwing out there.
No, it's good. Hey, we're all looking forward to that utopia. The reality is, it's nice to see that there's people out there that actually do care about that kind of stuff and are moving forward with that kind of mentality, because a lot of people are just, hey, let me grab the money and run. And that's not long-term business. That's very short-term business, very short-sighted. So it's nice to see somebody that says, hey, we're in this for the long haul. We want to help our partners. And again, partnering with obviously your customers is better than, hey, use our product and we're in control. Kind of like John with his networks. So,
well, and that probably brings up the aspect that we are always supposed to probably do this at the beginning of the show, Jeff, our disclaimer that says we've received no financial benefit from JumpCloud. Actually, Paco is the one that reached out to Ben to invite him on the show. And really, we invited them on just because we think there would be a valuable resource for a lot of our listeners, obviously, in any IT business. As a utility, obviously, since in the chat room we had a lot of people saying, "What's JumpCloud?" I mean, I think this has been a great introduction. But again, we haven't received anything financially, and at least at this point, Jeff, I don't think you've implemented JumpCloud. And the only thing I've done is some experimenting within my own business network with JumpCloud, and talking to Paco, who has implemented it at a few customers. So, that's just full disclosure, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yep, and I appreciate that. And yeah, the reality is, obviously, you can tell from Ben that he's passionate about his product and what they're bringing to the table, as far as him and his team, as far as JumpCloud goes. And we bring on people, and we do have email conversations and kind of talk back and forth, and you kind of get a feel for a little bit, with somebody, and then you kind of get on the call beforehand before we get started. You kind of go, yeah, it's kind of a cool dude. And I'm hoping that the rest of the, when people are coming on here, they're like, oh, these guys are all right, man. They're kind of cool. They're not Mr. Stuffy Shirt. So if we could bring that to the table, I think we're doing our job.
Well, and the big thing is that for a lot of our listeners and the size of organizations we deal with, and if I could be so bold that, just based on what we know about the people that might attend TechCon and the kind of businesses out there, JumpCloud to me is the solution that, I keep coming back to. I don't know why I haven't implemented it already, to be totally honest with myself and forthright with the listeners, but it just seems like the simple way to go to meet a lot of my compliance needs and to fulfill my loss of Active Directory and group policy in just a simple way, plus bring on all those other single sign-on and DAS benefits that we've talked about.
That's excellent. All right, here's what I want everybody to do, because we're going to take another really quick break. Ben, I want you to gather up your last thoughts. Anything we haven't talked about thus far that you want to bring to the table? John, same thing with you. And I would like to tell the audience right now, if you'd like to support this show, I encourage you to go to patreon.com/computer repair podcast. And I want to thank one of our newest Patreon supporters, Jared Messervy. I want to thank our continued supporters for your continued support, because what that not only gets you is basically what it is if you give $1 per show, that's $4 or $5 a month, you get into the super secret Facebook club group, whatever you want to call it. And that will get you a safe haven. We've got about 113 people in that group now. It'll give you a safe haven of being able to talk about your business, whether you've just been in this business one day or you've been in this business for 20 plus years, which we have many people that are, well, not many, there's a few. And, but it's just a safe haven where you can come in, share your information, ask a question. Nobody will make fun of you. Nobody will say, well, why didn't you should get out of this business. You know how many times in forums, I'm going off on a tangent, dang it. You know how many times in forums I would go into these forums and I would ask a question and I would get all these non-answers that have nothing to do with the question I asked. And I would just think in my mind, because I did not want to get into a flame war, that you, sir or ma'am, whoever you are a complete and utter idiot. And if you don't have anything constructive to add to the answer for my question, shut up and move along. We don't have that problem in our secret Facebook group. Just saying.
That's because
So,
of Paco.
that's right. I got two bouncers, Paco and John Dubinsky, and they will kick you out in a heartbeat if you get, lippy or sideways. There's just no room for that. We're in a safe environment where we want to help others. And guess what, John? How many times are you? Well, maybe more me, but are we helped from somebody mentioning something in that group where we go, oh, that's a good way to think about it. I never thought about it that way. I'm going to look at that a little bit more.
Well, that's a great thing about the group. And let's be honest, it's not that we're saying that there's not a good place for discussion, meaning, I don't want to say competitive is not the rules, but different opinions. That's the great thing about it, is that you can interject with your opinion and expose others to other ways of doing things. That's the best part about it. And that's really what I get about it, because even when I'm reading about posts that I don't post on because I have nothing of value to offer, as you mentioned, you're still learning. It's a great thing just to go back through there. And I always bring up the backpack post, and I think I've talked about it in the last 5 shows, but I was just really surprised at all the feedback and all the different, people seem to really love their backpacks. And what we found, that was just great. It's just a neat little thing, and it can be simple as something as your tech backpack to, dealing with. We had somebody post that they got the letter that somebody said, "Hey, stop using my business name," and there's a lot of feedback and help on somebody dealing with that issue. So it can be a resource to maybe calm your nerves and help you save save a little bit of your well-being or your mindset, to just simply finding a quick resource on something. So yeah, I really like the CRP group.
And the other thing too is a lot of people are out there, and they, like I said in the beginning of the show, they feel like they're by themselves, they're all alone, and they're the only person that's ever had to deal with this particular issue. No, you're not. It's been done over and over and over again. A lot of us have gone through a lot of these things, and we can go, hey, you know what? It'll be okay. Don't shut down the shop now. Let's talk about it and and help out. Not that we're any uh, so I'm not going to make you lie on the couch and go, how does that make you feel? But and if I
We
did,
certainly don't have all the answers. The great thing
no,
is there will be a lot of opinions, and you can choose from the answer you like or what you feel best. That's the whole idea. It's just getting information, because 2 things. The only thing I know for sure is I don't know everything. And the second thing is you don't know what you don't know. And the CRP group is just a great way to answer both of those.
awesome. Thanks again, John. All right, so let's go ahead with the end of this topic. Ben, I'm going to kick it over to you. Any final thoughts? Anything we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that people knew about before we get on out of here?
Yeah, I think we've covered a good bit of it. I think I would just kind of reiterate a couple of points we've already highlighted. Of, if you haven't tried it out, or you're learning about us for the first time today, we offer 10 users free forever, full functionality. So go kick the tires. We offer support to everybody as well, so you can always just email support@jumpcloud.com. Not going to cost you anything. Hit them with the questions you got. If you have an interest in learning a little bit more about the product, either for your own business or as a partner, reach out to our team. You can reach out to my team and just at partners@jumpcloud.com. Or you can reach out. I think it's just sales, or there's a bunch of different contact us forms. So there's a whole bunch of ways you can get in touch with our team. As you've hopefully heard throughout this podcast, we're here just to help. We're not trying to push anything down your throats. We're not trying to sell you on something. And we want you to get in and play around with the tool. It's something new. It's something fun. Like John, you've probably got a billion other things to do and haven't had time to go in and test it out yet, even if you have heard of us. So we understand that as well. And we want to kind of help you out when you're ready to take the plunge. So just, go try it out. Go try some new tool and reach out to our team when you've got questions.
Awesome. And Ben, I appreciate you coming on the show on a Sunday afternoon and sharing your time with us and teaching us about JumpCloud and all the things that we either knew or didn't know. So it's been good.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for having me on. It's been fun. Maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll see you all in September. But regardless, I think it was, happy St. Patty's Day again. And we'll be in touch soon.
Sounds good. And John, if people want to find out where you're at, where would they go?
Well, obviously CRP Group is a good one. And we have another little exciting announcement related to that and related to TechCon. There's now a TechCon event up on Facebook. I will put the link in the show notes and in the chat for that as well. I did a little post. If you guys are coming in early, my point is I'm happy to be a small part of TechCon, or honored to be a little small part of TechCon. I'm on the planning committee and all that, so that is great. But if you're coming in early, like Jeff said, post on the event page. Maybe we can hook up, do something a little bit early. If you're bringing your partner that is a non-tech partner, or maybe kids or something like that, maybe post in the event log too, maybe wives, husbands, or whoever is getting dragged to the event that is non-tech, maybe want to hook up. We're no Chicago here in Grand Rapids, but with that said, we are a great mid-sized city that has a lot to offer and is very easy to get to with things like free parking and a little bit of traffic and all that kind of stuff. The battles you don't have to fight in Chicago. So I'd be happy to provide any feedback on that, or help with anything like that. So I will put that Facebook event link in the show notes as well as in the chat right now. And I just look forward to everybody coming. And I hope everybody knows that, obviously when you come to TechCon, it's a little bit different than other conferences. I hope you feel like you're part of the family, because, the same rules apply to TechCon that apply to the CRP group. We're just coming to talk about, all sorts of things. What do you use for backup might be a question that you talk to 100 different guys or gals about while you're at the conference, and nobody's going to say, why do you do that? That's dumb. That's the kind of thing. We all just want feedback and to learn from one another. And that's the whole idea behind TechCon and the vendors we invite. And that's why we want everybody to attend.
Yeah, because if that happens, I just want everybody to know the first time I'm an average size height. I'm 5'9", and the first time I met Paco LeBron, he was towering over me, looking down on me like I was a little kid. So basically, if people need to be removed, we've got at least him.
Come on, it's not quite that bad, Jeff.
No, but I reiterate what John says. This is a community-based effort, and we just want to bring people together. And it's not different than really what we do here on this show. It's not different than the CRP group, other than we're going to bring more vendors in where you can actually shake hands, kiss babies, all that kind of stuff, and learn more about the products and services, hang out. And not only that, hang out with other business owners that are doing the same things you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So it's going to be a great time, and hope to see you there.
Well, we got a meeting tonight about it, and I'm on the planning committee, and maybe I failed to do this at prior meetings, but really, now that we've got a good foundation of what we're doing, if you hit the page, we've got the schedule up a lot better and what's going to happen. We have a lot of vendors listed, but really now what I want to start pounding on is, where's the value? So how are you going to make my job easier? How are you going to make my client's life better? And how are you going to save me time? So, those are the three things that anybody that attends, that I hope, the value is, if you can even walk away with one idea in any of those categories, I mean, you've more than paid for the conference.
And, it's one of those things too, John, where the conference is a tax deduction. It's part of your business. And if you're not paying your taxes, you should be paying your taxes on it. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, it's definitely it's a worthwhile venture. And, it's probably one of the I don't want to say it's the cheapest conference, but it's probably inexpensive conference, and it's going to be special. It really is.
And we have really good donuts in Grand Rapids, and I'm going to take care of Rainey when he comes because he's kind of my donut boyfriend. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm confident enough in my manhood to say that. So I'll be bringing in some donuts, and we're gonna have a good time with that too. So it should be a lot of fun, along with all the tech knowledge.
All right, with that, we are going to get on out of here. Come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnuts.com/CRP Live. Join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room. You can send an email to podnuts@podnuts.com or leave a voicemail at 734-335-1000. I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on the Computer Repair Podcast.